All right, let's just dive right into the Nikola Tesla files. In this explainer, we're looking at the ultimate paradox of a man whose life reads less like your standard historical biography and honestly a lot more like a forensic crime scene. We're going to break down what the source material describes as a threefold erasure, basically an assassination of a single legacy that happened 3 separate times. Picture this. It's January 7th, 1943. A penniless 86-year-old man dies in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel, surrounded by nothing but unpaid bills. Yet within hours, FBI agents are swarming his room, seizing all his belongings and highly classified documents. That explosive question is our starting point. I mean, why on earth was the U.S. government so absolutely terrified of a broke, elderly man? Well, to figure that out, we first have to understand who he really was. Section 1. The Forgotten Genius. The Foundations of the Modern World. So the absolutely crucial point here is that our daily lives are built almost entirely on Tesla's visionary foundations. It's actually staggering when you think about it. The lights, fans, the refrigerator in your kitchen, all of it runs on alternating current, or AC, which was his invention. The foundational tech for wireless communication, the stuff that eventually gave us Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, also Tesla. Throw in neon lights, X-ray imaging, and hydroelectric power systems. This guy wasn't just a scientist, he was literally the architect of the 20th century. But here's the wild irony of his life. Today, you see modern tech founders building apps to solve, minor inconveniences like getting a taxi faster or ordering a sandwich. And boom, they become billionaires overnight. Contrast that with Nikola Tesla. This is a man who quite literally electrified the entire globe, yet spent the last 9 years of his life in a hotel where he couldn't even scrape together enough money to pay rent or buy his next meal. How does a genius of this magnitude end up with absolutely zero net worth? Moving on to Section 2, the first assassination, his economic downfall and the war of currents. The timeline of this corporate war is intense. So Thomas Edison had this massive monopoly with his direct current, or DC system. But DC had a huge, fatal flaw. It could only transmit power for about 2 or 3 kilometers. That meant you'd need expensive power stations practically on every corner. Then enter Tesla in 1887 with his alternating current system. AC could transmit electricity over hundreds of kilometers, safely and cheaply. Tesla teamed up with George Westinghouse to take on Edison, and Edison fought dirty, like publicly electrocuting animals, just to convince people that AC was dangerous. But Tesla's vastly superior tech systematically crushed Edison's monopoly. It culminated in a massive victory, lighting up the 1893 Chicago World's Fair and then the historic Niagara Falls Power Project. Tesla won the war. As part of his deal with Westinghouse, Tesla was promised a royalty of exactly $2.50 per horsepower of AC electricity sold. Given how fast AC was adopted, this single piece of paper would have easily made Nikola Tesla the world's first billionaire. But Edison's aggressive PR campaigns and legal battles had pushed Westinghouse's company right to the edge of bankruptcy. So, to save his business partner from ruin and to make sure his AC system would continue serving humanity, Tesla did the unthinkable. He literally tore up his own royalty contract. He threw away his certain billionaire status because he suffered from what psychologists call a messianic complex. He truly, deeply believed he was put on this earth to serve humanity, not to just stack cash. But that incredibly noble mindset is exactly what led to his total economic ruin. Just look at his next colossal project, the Wardenclyffe Tower. Tesla managed to secure $150,000 from the legendary financier J.P. Morgan by pitching it as a wireless communication tower. But Tesla's real, secret goal was to pump out free, wireless electricity to the entire world. When he finally fessed up to Morgan and asked for more money, Morgan just asked one simple question. If the electricity is wireless, where do I put the meter to charge people? Because Morgan's vast wealth was tied up in coal, oil, and existing monopolies, a capitalist system simply cannot tolerate free energy. Morgan didn't just pull the funding, he blacklisted Tesla across the entire financial sector. Tesla was, effectively, economically assassinated. Which brings us to Section 3, the second assassination, his mysterious death and the FBI raid. The timeline of what happened in room 3327 is so incredibly suspicious, full of these massive open loops. On January 5th, 1943, a Do Not Disturb sign gets hung on his door. 2 full days go by, nobody goes in. Finally, on the morning of January 8th, a maid named Alice ignores the sign, walks in, and finds his body.
Now here's where it gets weird. A medical examiner shows up and pinpoints his time of death as exactly 10:30 p.m. on January 7th. Actually, think about that for a second. How exactly do you pinpoint a time of death down to the literal minute in 1943? No security cameras, no modern forensics, and then, almost immediately, the FBI is raiding his room.
Section 4, the secret box and the death ray. Let's unlock this mystery.
Get this. The agency that swooped in to seize his 80 trunks of documents was the OAP, the Office of Alien Property Custodian. This is bizarre on its face, right? Because this agency was strictly meant to seize the assets of non-citizens during wartime, but Tesla was a naturalized American citizen. According to the source, the government was terrified of Tesla's nephew, Sava Kasanovich. He was a diplomat seen as communist-leaning. With World War II raging, the U.S. was paranoid that this nephew might hand over Tesla's unbuilt, brilliant secrets straight to the Soviet Union. And the crown jewel of those secrets was allegedly a weapon of mass destruction. Back in 1930, while staying at a different hotel, the Governor Clinton, Tesla racked up a $400 unpaid bill. Since he couldn't pay, he handed management this mysterious, premium-looking box as collateral. He warned them, do not open this. He claimed inside was a death ray capable of downing 10,000 airplanes from 400 kilometers away, and that it was worth millions. After Tesla died, the government brought in an engineer named John Trump to open that exact box. Trump publicly declared it was completely harmless, just a useless 45-year-old electrical resistance box, basically saying Tesla scammed the hotel. But wait, look at the historical evidence the source points out. In 1984, detailed technical specs for a particle beam weapon were found in the Tesla Museum in Belgrade. In the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan launched the Star Wars Defense Initiative, using weapons based on the exact same principles Tesla described. And in 2014, Israel debuted their Iron Beam, which many experts argue is essentially a modified version of Tesla's old designs. Plus, Tesla himself said in 1937 that he'd already built and demonstrated it. So you've got to wonder, was that box actually empty, or was the real tech just heavily covered up?
Section 5, the third assassination, being erased from history. Let's talk about those hidden trunks.
There is a massive, glaring hole in the government's official story. The FBI seized 80 trunks total from his room. If, as John Trump claimed, all of Tesla's later research was totally useless, just the ramblings of an old man, then why keep any of it? After heavy lobbying, the U.S. returned 60 trunks to his family in 1952, but they held on to 20. And to this very day, in the year 2025, those 20 trunks are still classified by the U.S. government for national security. I mean, a guy who died over 80 years ago is somehow still a national security threat? Right. And this brings us to a really profound takeaway from the source material. Innovation is only celebrated when it aligns with the existing economic order. Think about our history books. Edison, Einstein, they're celebrated heroes because their work could be monetized, metered, and controlled. Tesla, on the other hand, was systematically removed from our collective memory because his absolute purest vision, free energy for the whole planet, was an existential threat to massive corporate monopolies. It's simple. When you challenge the system doesn't just defeat you, it straight up erases you. But despite being blacklisted, completely ruined financially, and erased by the establishment, Tesla had this unshakable confidence. He once famously said, "The present is theirs, the future is mine." He wasn't building tech for the people around him, he was building it for us. And his genius did ultimately prevail. It survived all that suppression to become the literal invisible architecture of our modern reality.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time you flip a light switch or connect your phone to Wi-Fi, just ask yourself, who truly built your modern world? And maybe more importantly, if the government is still hiding 20 trunks of Nikola Tesla's life's work, what other revolutionary secrets capable of changing the world overnight are just sitting there, gathering dust in intelligence vaults? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.